Okay, here's a quick way to use Neat Video to get rid of your noise on videos. A lot of people, myself included, would have in the past just dropped it onto a timeline where they're editing stuff. So they're editing between this shot and this shot and this shot and this shot. And of course, if you put Neat Video up here on your timeline, first thing you must remember, this is number one, right? I will repeat, this is number one thing you must remember. Hello, wake up, I'm telling you this is number one thing you must remember. Neat Video must be above all other effects, okay? It cannot be below, it must be at the top before all other effects. If you forget this rule, you will slow down Neat Video processing by a factor of 3 or 4 times. Okay, so the best thing to do is to not even have any other effects on. Okay, turn all other effects off and only have Neat Video on. But if you must have Neat Video before other effects, it must be at the top. Okay, so remember that rule, always remember it. Okay, now of course having multiple effects on and rendering this puppy out would be slow, because adding effects on top of Neat Video is a nightmare. Okay, Neat Video does not like it. It will do it, but it doesn't like it. Okay, so if you can't get rid of doing these effects, what I say is try this out. Okay, edit your video, do it all, put up with the noise in the video, just edit the whole thing, add no noise cleaning at this stage, nothing. Okay, then run it out using the built-in QuickTime Cineform. So you have to select the main window, you select export, you go to QuickTime, you go to GoPro Cineform, because GoPro now owns Cineform, and Cineform is like ProRes RAW. It's like the nearest thing to ProRes RAW. It's really high quality. Hardly notice the compression. You can compress, then load it back in, then compress, then load it back in, then compress, then load it back in, and you'll hardly lose anything. So anyway, Cineform is a good, it's really good. Okay, and it's fast on a PC. So use GoPro Cineform YUV 10-bit. Okay, and when you see the options down here, leave it on 4, because that's a very high, i.e. as you can see, they're film scan, so it's film scan quality. Okay, so run your video out, it'll be massive. This is 1 hour and 5 minutes, right? And the file size is 300 megs. Sorry, gigs. What am I on megs? I wish. 300 gigs. So run your file out, 1 hour will be 300 gigs at this quality. Okay, put it on the fastest hard drive you have. I have SSD drives, and I also have an Opteron drive. Opteron is where I stick it. So then load the footage back into Premiere after you've finished, and here it is, the whole thing, right, with no Neat Video, just the color changes and everything you need, color changes and the cuts, they're all in here, and it's on my fast drive. So as you can see, it whizzes through. It's really fast to render, you know, and pull this up on the drive. This is 4K footage, by the way. Okay, so find a moment where it's good to sample the noise cleaning. Put reduce noise on. Oh, it's already there. Actually, let's just enable it. Right, put it on, but you have to find a moment where there is no texture. Okay, so if we go up to 400%, you'll see what I mean. Right, the sky is usually a good place. Somewhere dark that has no natural texture. Okay. Doing it down here might look good. If we sample this area, you can see there's lines, there's pitting of the cobbles of the street. So you don't want that. You don't want any texture. Texture will screw up Neat Video's algorithms. Okay, so let's choose the sky. So we go into Neat Video. Okay, there we go. Pick the sky. And this little thing down here will help you to understand whether you've got a good or bad area, because I can't see any noise. Now, if I was to choose down here, okay, and zoom in, you'll see, look, there's loads of noise and texture, and even over here, there's textures and textures. Okay, so that's the wrong area. So move it to somewhere where there's no textures. So that's up there. Then you say Build Profile. You could do Adjust and Preview. Okay, now if you want to speed your time up, if you have temporal cleaning turned on, if it's a 2 or higher, it's going to be very slow. Okay, if you turn it down to 1, that's acceptable. That's acceptable. Okay, so then what I do is, because most video noise on most compressed format cameras, i.e. H.264, H.265, there's video noise in the color areas. I turn the chrominance up to 100% and the noise level for chrominance up to 100%. Okay, that gets rid of all this noise, crappy colors. So what do we mean by noise, crappy colors? Well, what we mean is this pinky blue green, pinky blue green, pinky blue green, pinky blue green. This is what you get from compressed cameras. You don't get this so much on raw cameras. Okay, so you can see pinky blue green, pinky blue green. Now what's going to happen is if I turn the preview mode on, it blurs out that stuff. So it blurs it out. So there we go. Now is it going to be too much? If it's too much, you can turn down the amount of cleaning for the color. Okay, so it's entirely up to you how much you have. You can dial it in or out. I tend to dial in the cleaning so that it cleans less of the luminance but more of the chrominance, as you can see there. So what we can do is we can take down the chrominance. There's still a little bit of detail. There's still a little bit of natural noise, but it gets rid of this color stuff. Have a look. Yeah, see that hard coloring is now blurring out. So you know, it's entirely up to you how much you play with this, but I tend to have it so that it's kind of like a little bit between both. So if you're happy with that, you can go ahead and you can then tell it to apply that. Now make sure that you've got your preferences, performance turned on to use your GPU. If you're using the CPU only, forget it. I mean, it's just going to take you forever. This is just a waste of time. Yeah, you've got to have a GPU. It has to be a good enough GPU to work with the software, and you can optimize the settings, and it will tell you what the best blend is between using CPU and GPU. Overall, I find that forget CPU. Always have GPU on. Okay, just GPU. That's it. Okay, right. Then I can say apply, and we can have a look at how that looks in the final sort of thing. So I don't think it's getting rid of it quite enough noise, but let's check it in some other scenes and see what it looks like. So there, now you're getting this weird effect, which is what happens sometimes when you choose a bad noise area to sample from. Can you see that horrible shadow? So you always need to test it in a couple of places. So I'm going to resample that noise from a different area. So I'm going to say, look, let's try the sky up here. Okay, build the profile from that. Apply, and suddenly all those shadows have gone. Let's just turn it off and on, and you can see that it works quite nicely. But I think I've overcooked it on turning down the amount that it's cleaning. So I'm going to turn that up a little bit. There we go. So there we go. So I'm going to say around there. So let's give that a go. Okay, now you can see it's quite quick reacting because I'm working from the Cineform file, so it doesn't have to use the processor to unpack the file because the file is pretty much already unpacked, which is really good, and it's working pretty well. But I'm going to just looking pretty close just to make sure. So how it's affecting things. So you can see it's taking a lot of that noise out. Now that noise represents YouTube looking horribly blocky. YouTube would just go block, 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 block where that amount of noise is because it can't handle that bit rate. It will take your very high, you'd need a high bit rate to not have this break up on YouTube. But YouTube doesn't give you that option. When you save videos with high bit rate, you can still see all this detail. But YouTube will just go, I'm throwing all that away, and it will look about 10 times worse than this. But it's best to get rid of as much noise as you can before you upload to YouTube. Now anyway, what we're here for is speed. Speed is the thing I brought you here for. So, sequence settings. Change the preview file format to Cineform, 10-bit. Okay, make sure that the frame size is the same there as it is there. So 3840, 3840, 2160, 2160. Okay, then you click OK. It says it's going to redo all the previews. Okay, now just to stop the machine going crazy, because it sometimes crashes and you lose work, I select an area using this. So I put the pointer down and then I select an area. Then I hit enter and it will render just that area. Then I can do it in chunks. So I can do it that chunk, then I can do another chunk, then I can do another chunk, then I can do another chunk, and every time I do a chunk, I Control S, save. Okay, and this way, if you have a crash at around about here, you haven't lost all this in the processing. Plus also, I have found that the machine slows down unexpectedly sometimes when you're doing rendering. And if you do it in smaller chunks, save, smaller chunk, save, smaller chunk, save, you're less likely to have a failure. Also, if you do the whole area in one go, you might find that your hard drive runs out of space. So by doing it in small chunks, you will find that it will not run out of space. Now I'm just going to try this. Now I am running OBS capture, so let's see what the speed in 4K is like per frame. Right, bear in mind OBS is slowing this down a lot, but it's going to take me 50 minutes to do a 10-minute chunk. So to do this whole video would be 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hour. It's going to be about a 5-hour render, but I'd rather do 5 chunks of 1 hour, well, 45 minutes. You see how it's coming down? So it's coming down, so it's 45 minutes. So it's going to take about 4 hours to do the whole of this video in chunks. But I would rather do it in chunks and have something at the end I can work with than lose it all. Okay, when you've done the whole thing, it'll go green. So you'll have green, 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 green chunks, 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 chunks. Remember to save. Then to save the whole project, highlight the whole project from end to end. Right, all of these bits will no longer be red, they will be rendered. Right, when you want to then send it out, it will be hyperspeed. You export. You've got to make sure you've got a QuickTime. You've got to make sure you're in Cineform. Right, if you don't go Cineform, it will take forever. Okay, and you use the previews. Okay, you can render to some other format, like you could go H.265 or H.264, that would be fine, but you must tick use previews. Use previews is going to use all the pre-rendered green stuff that you've done here in Cineform quality, and it's going to render it out to a file, either Cineform if you want to maintain the quality, or if you're going to upload it to YouTube in H.265, then you would select H.265 here. Okay, you would set all your rates and what you want the bit rate to be. For 4K, I would suggest a constant bit rate of at least 20 for YouTube. Right, anything less and you're going to start seeing it break up. Okay, but again, key thing here, use the previews. If you don't turn this on, it's going to noise clean the whole thing from scratch. It's going to take 15 hours. It's going to be really slow, because it's going to be using the processor to do the H.265, and it's going to be noise cleaning, and it could get halfway through and start slowing down. So if you don't use the previews, you aren't using all these pre-rendered chunks you did here. So that's the secret to doing fast noise cleaning. If you don't do this, you will run into trouble. So there's the magic secrets of how to use Neat Video to noise clean without pain and with speed. Have a good time and ask me any questions you have in the comments below. Right, this is a 2023 update where I'm going to give you a few extra little secret things I found out about using Neat Video, which is going to make it even faster for you. So on the timeline you can see I've got a clip. It's actually a RAW clip. So this is a Blackmagic RAW, B-RAW. It was shot on a 6K Blackmagic camera, and if we zoom in, or if we play it, just have a look at the noise. So have a look at this noise. So, oops, wrong one. There we go. So let's play this. See, it's full of noise, and you can see the noise there. So let's zoom in. See those pixels? Let's go back. So that's the street. So let's, oops. So let's have a little zoom up so we can see. So you can see the trees and everything. It's got loads of noise in it. It's very, very noisy footage. Okay. Sometimes when you've got to push your ISO up, you know, because you need to push your ISO up, you're going to get noise. Good thing about stuff like RAW footage, and especially Blackmagic cameras, is it's very, very sharp noise, which is absolutely perfect for neat video. That's what it likes. It doesn't like smudges and blobs. It likes pin sharp noise. That's what it works with best. But anyway, we digress. What we've got then is a need to get rid of this noise. So using the techniques I talked about before, you would normally grade your footage first. So, you know, do all your adjustments, get it all as you want it, you know, make it look nice, whatever. Output that as Cineform, then drag it back into the project, and then it's got the colors are all baked in. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my Lumetri color. So we're just going to imagine now that this on the timeline is a pre-colorized. So I've got all the colors have been done, and I've dragged it back in as Cineform. That's what's now on the timeline. So after it takes the inordinate amount of time to save the project. Right, okay, so now we've got a reduce noise, and I've already dialed it in, so I'll show you the difference now. So, wow, look at that. Okay, so that's with noise, that's noise cleaned. And it's very, very quick using Neat Video on RAW because it's just a really sort of uncompressed format, so it can load it in quickly. Now let's have a look at 400%, and let's have a look at something like the trees and up here. Right, now that's with no noise cleaning. Let's turn Neat on. 3, 2, 1, bang. Look at the difference. Absolute night and day. Taking quite noisy footage that you think, ugh, into really something quite usable and quite nice. So yeah, let's just show you again. So how do we do this? Right, well, the old trick is we've got to find a bit of something that doesn't have any texture in it. So the road has a bit of texture in it. There's loads of texture in the gravel. Maybe this bit up in the sky up here we could use. But if we scroll forwards through the footage, we'll see that in a minute there's an area down here where we pan into the black where we've got perfect noise to sample. So let's have a look at this noise, 400%. That's what we need, something like that. That's absolutely just what we need. So yeah, so if you've got any sky or anything that doesn't have any textures in it, that's where you want to do your noise sample from. So we'll bring it on, prepare, build. Then we give it the sample area that we want. So we just say any old area because you can see there's nothing there. Build a profile, adjust and preview. There we are. And we can zoom in and we can see before, after, before, after. Now I've dialed in the settings as I normally do with the chrominance turned up, a little bit of push on the luminance and a little bit of push on the luminance up here. Okay, so we're ready to go. So we apply that. Now you can see it's done the noise clean. That's it. Now we want to output this in chunks, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to render the whole of this. Imagine this was an hour long. Then it's going to take probably 4 or 5 hours to render this at 4K or 6K. That's just an example. So what we do is we do it in chunks. Now, I told you about this before. So we put our in and our out point. We go to sequence settings. We set it to GoPro Cineform 10-bit. No need to do 12. It's overkill. Make sure that the frame size and height are exactly the same from up here down there. Click OK. And now we can render this in little chunks, so it's safer this way. So I'll show you that because I didn't do it last time and I thought maybe I should have actually shown you. So I hit enter on the keyboard and it's really quick rendering raw. So there you go, bang. So it's done that little bit, and you notice there's green. Notice the green means it's been rendered. So we move the chunk along and we move from chunk to chunk, and we just go and do that bit next. And every time you've rendered one of these little preview chunks, you Control S to save it. Okay, really important, save your project. So as you can see now, we've got green from there to there. Now we've got green there. So we keep moving our chunk along and hit enter. Very quick. So I'm simulating what would be, something that would take longer if you were going to do it for an hour. Oops, that's something that happens a lot. So we'll save it and start it up again. But when you come back into Premiere and you load the project up, watch now. It will find that it had those chunks still there. So it doesn't forget. As long as you save after you do every single chunk, you see they reappear. So let's do the next chunk. There we are. So this is what you do, and then you would Control S. Normally you would save that. Control S every time, because you're doing large chunks and you don't want to lose anything. So, and this is the final chunk. Now all these chunks are done. So you've rendered everything. You've avoided things that might happen, like crashes. You've just seen a crash, so it proves to you that Premiere does crash. It's a thing. We all know this if you use Premiere. I mean, Resolve has crashed on me, but not as bad, and you don't lose as much of your stuff. But anyway, all of this is green, so that's all stored on your hard drive as GoPro Cineform. Now, to render this out with all the effects, you've got two choices. You can either render it out now to a H.264, H.265, because it's your finished project, you're ready to go. So you can dial in, you want H.264, H.265, all the good stuff, yeah. Or you can do it back out to a QuickTime again. You know, you can make a master file. So you go Cineform 10-bit and use previews. Test this out, see if I'm right. I've sort of had a confirmation from speaking to Neat Video that this is the thing. Premiere has a bug. It's a specific bug to do with previews and Cineform, which is what we're using. If you go to do your use previews and you export, it's slower because we have CUDA acceleration turned on. The Mercury transmit CUDA acceleration is turned on. Now that's all wonderful for when you're skimming the timeline and you're doing color corrections and you're editing, you have all that turned on. However, when you go to export all of your preview rendered stuff at the end, having that turned on can slow things down. So this is why what you do the following. So you cancel that, you come to File, Project Settings, General, you turn off the Mercury acceleration playback CUDA, and you go to software only, which means just using your CPU, not using your GPU. Okay, so you click OK, you go to export again, you do QuickTime, Custom, YUV 10-bit, use previews, and you export now. Now the difference is, it may have taken you an hour to run that Cineform file out. It'll probably only take you about 10 minutes if you turn off the CUDA, just for this process here, just this little bit, which is running a Cineform in previews to Cineform out, or something else out, but you're using Cineform previews. It seems to be that Cineform doesn't like playing with the GPU when it's rendering out. So you turn off the acceleration. Once you've output it, you go straight back in to File, Project Settings, General. Make sure you turn this back on. Otherwise, you'll have very, very slow performance and jittery performance when you're normally editing. So this is only for the final output of your project, and it's mostly applicable if you're going Cineform in previews to Cineform out, and it makes a massive difference in speeding up your exports. And as you can see, when you come back in, it often selects ProRes 422. You make sure you're always on Cineform 10-bit. Anyway, that's the 2023 update. That's made a massive difference to me since I found it out. I spoke to Neat Video, and they actually said to me, under certain circumstances, test how long it's going to take for you to render something, then turn off Mercury CUDA and try it again, because you may find there's a big speed increase if you turn off CUDA when you're doing certain types of rendering. So yeah, especially when you're using Neat Video and you're outputting the previews, you know, this is the thing. So yeah, check that out. It is a known bug. Premiere don't fix bugs really. They just keep on updating the software, charging loads of money, and yeah, you know, there's like three monkeys they don't want to know. So yeah, it's been a bug that's been there for a while. Nothing's been done to fix it. That's the workaround that kind of speeds things up for you. Test it out for yourself. You know, run a time check. How many frames a second is it doing? How long is it going to take? Turn Mercury CUDA off. you know, do the same file. You can actually cancel the file before it's finished. You can like run this now and export, and it'll say an hour. So go in, take the CUDA off, say export again, it'll say 10 minutes. So I hope that helps you out. It is a bug in Premiere. That's kind of why I'm going over to using DaVinci Resolve. But I do use Premiere quite a lot for, you know, ease of use for certain things that I do. So anyway, hope it helps you. I won't bore you anymore. Thank you very much for watching.